Hey, it's Chris Ferdinandi, the Vanilla.js guy from GoMakeThings.com, and today we're going to be looking at two different ways to climb up the DOM with vanilla JavaScript. Let's dig in. So here I have a really simple HTML file with an H1 heading and this div with an ID of app on it wrapped around that heading. And I'm using the query selector method to get my H1 element and assign it to a variable. If I use the element parent node property, I can get the first parent element of that element. So it's going to move one layer up in the DOM. In this case, I would expect the parent node property to return this div with the ID of app. If we jump over to the browser for a second and I log H1 to the console, we get that H1 heading. And then if I were to use the parent variable, I'm getting that wrapper element with the ID of app on it. Now you can actually chain these. So if you want to go up multiple levels, you can run parent node multiple times. So here I've got level up parent. So if I were to go H1 parent node, that's going to give me the body element, which then gives us this div with an ID of app, which then gives us the H1 heading. And so you can chain these as many times as you want to until you reach the top. At a certain point, you'll get an error if you kind of run out of parent elements to retrieve. The next method that I wanted to look at is the element prototype closest method. And this one's great. You pass in a selector, any valid CSS selector, and it will return the first matching element up the DOM tree, starting with the element itself. So here we've got an H1 element with a data sandwich attribute on it, wrapped in a div with an ID of app, wrapped in a div with a class of hero, wrapped in a main element. So we've got kind of a very nested HTML structure here. And I'm using the query selector method to get the H1 element and assign it to a variable. If I were to run the closest method on that H1 element, passing in a class selector of hero, it's going to return the first matching parent element that has that class on it. So let's jump over to the browser. We'll jump over to this other tab here. So I've got my H1 element, and hero is returning that div with the class of hero on it. That's a parent several layers up of my H1 heading. If I were to pass in, say, the data sandwich attribute selector, that's actually going to return the H1 element itself because it starts its check with the current element. So if we were to go sandwich, I actually get back that H1 element, even if, like, let's say this had the data sandwich attribute on it too, and we did that, it's still going to return back that first element. If you don't want it to start with that first element, you can use the parent node's attribute with closest to start with one level up. So in this case, I'm saying starting with the H1 element's parent node, find the first matching element that has the data sandwich attribute. Now if we were to, let's reload the page first. And if we were to go sandwich 2, that returns main. Now, if we didn't have that attribute on there, so let's say there's no matching element, what we're instead going to get back is null. So if no matching element is found, you're going to get back null. So these two methods, they do different things. They work really nicely together, and they give you a couple of different options for moving up the DOM tree. If you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and maybe even share it with someone else who you think might enjoy it. You can also get my daily developer tips newsletter over at GoMakeThings.com, where every weekday I share a new tip, trick, tool, or Vanilla.js snippet to help you build a simpler and more resilient web. Thanks so much for watching.